Hello, croeso, welcome back. This is our second video. We hope you had lots of fun making your fry pan pizzas. During that little video we gave you a quick little basic guide on how to make the dough, but this one we're going to concentrate more on how to make that Neapolitan style dough that we use at Cardiff Market. All our little bases like the depot, and when we pop out in the little vans making pizzas as well. So like I said, this is a Neapolitan style pizza. There are loads of different types of pizza. You've got the Roman, Sicilian, they have different ones in America like the Detroit, Chicago deep town. So there's lots of different types of dough, all made specifically for that type of pizza. So this one is the Neapolitan style. It's very simple. It's only 4 ingredients. We've got the flour, we've got sea salt, we've got fresh yeast, and we've got water. So the flour we use is 00 flour, very finely ground, and it's perfect for pizzas. It's got just the right amount of gluten for that elasticity, but then once you cook it in that 500-degree oven, it's not like a heavy chewy dough. So if you've got it, if you can get your hands on 00 flour, perfect. If not, bread flour is fine. And if you're struggling with that, just any like plain flour will give you a different texture, it'll be thinner and crisper, but if you can, 00 flour. So that's what we use. We use the Caputo brand, so it's all come all the way from Naples. It's one of the biggest brands in Italy for making pizza. So it's top quality stuff, and they make loads of different types of flour as well for different purposes. So different flours have different purposes to make different types of pizza, etc. So we've gone with the Caputo 00. Sea salt, plain and simple. Fresh yeast, we use fresh yeast just because we like to give our dough that long proving fermentation, just to add to the flavour, just to make sure it's nice and light and airy. So fresh yeast, if you can get it, I understand, like especially if it's anything like Cardiff, if you're watching this in Cardiff, yeast full stop is hard to get by. So if you can get any type of yeast, fresh yeast ideally, but the dried action stuff, fast acting yeast, they're just as good, just you might just have to tweak the quantities a bit with that. A brief overview of the method. So it has a double proving or a double fermentation, so we mix all the ingredients and we'll show you how to do that, and then mix it all together, knead it, and then it has like a big batch fermentation for a few hours until it like almost doubles in size, is a good little gauge, and then we pull it out, we chop it up into little balls, pop it in the fridge, and then it has a nice long overnight fermentation, and we pull it out in the morning the next day, ready to get it back up to room temperature, ready to make pizzas. So that's kind of the gist of what we're going to show you now. So then we've spoken about the ingredients, and then after this we'll move on to the method of making the dough. Okay, right, we've got our ingredients ready. So first thing to do, get a nice big dough. We pop the water in, and then we pop the sea salt straight in. So the key to this now is just to make sure we dissolve the salt completely. You don't want any flakes or shards of salt left. This may take a little bit of time. Try not to use, we don't use cold water. It's just like room temperature water. You want a little bit of warmth in it just to make sure that the yeast is nice and cosy. There we go. So that's all that dissolved. Then we just take the fresh yeast. That goes straight into the salty water. And then you just want to mix it and make sure that's all dissolved in nicely as well. There we go, so it's gone all nice and cloudy. And then the next bit is we're just going to gradually add the flour, just a little bit at a time. You do see a lot of recipes where they just tell you to mix the water with the flour, but we tend to do the opposite. We add the flour to the water, so we're trying to incorporate as much air into the mixture as possible. So we get, when it comes to cooking it, then you get like a nice light airy dough. If you do it the opposite, if you add the water into the flour, you tend to get like a heavier, more dense dough, and that's not what you want. It'll be harder to stretch and you won't have the same elasticity in it. So we just keep mixing it a bit at a time. So once that first batch is mixed in, you just keep adding, keep mixing it with your hand. It is a little bit messy at the start, but don't worry about that. So we're just mixing it by hand, trying to get as much air in as possible. You can see now it's starting to come together. Just make sure we're scraping it all in from the sides. So it's still a little bit wet. Just keep mixing and mixing. Just make sure you're picking all the flour up as well. So this dough mixture has got a 65% hydration rate, which is quite relatively high. So that means for every kilo of flour we use is 650 mils of water. Like various places they use different hydrations, but then also depends on what sort of weather you have as well. Sometimes you may need a bit more, sometimes a bit less. So we just keep mixing it until it starts to come together as a dough ball. It is a bit fiddly picking off bits of dough. Then that's part of the fun. Once you've got all the flour mixed in, you can see now it's all starting to come away from the edge of the bowl. You have to make some space on your worktop. So you can just like fold it over a little bit in the bowl to make sure all that flour is evenly mixed. And if you're breathing heavily now, you wait until you start kneading it. There we go, let's get all these little bits off. Good little tip though, if you've got dough all over your fingers, just get a little bit of flour and rub your hands and all those little bits will come off as well. There we go. So that's all mixed in. Plop it onto the surface, and this is the fun bit now. So we're just going to knead it. You need to knead it ideally for about 20 minutes. Just to get those gluten strands come in, so you want that elasticity. So what I'm just doing now, I'm pushing it with the palm of my hand into the surface, folding it back, and then turning it. So if you're having a bad day, kids or your husband or wife are doing your head in, this is how you relieve the stress. You can see it's quite wet, and that's due to like the hydration level we've got at the moment, but don't panic. It does all start to come together the more you knead it. So we're just going to crack on with this for about 20 minutes. So we'll see you in a bit. So after the 20 minutes of kneading, it's quite hard work, but it'll be worth it in the end. Obviously, when we make it at the market, we're dealing in higher volumes, a lot more dough balls, a lot more pizza, so we've got a big mixer. So if you do have a mixer in the house with a dough hook, that's just as good a method as doing it by hand. It's a little less fun, but then it does do a pretty good job. So we've kneaded this for 20 minutes. So if we come in a bit closer, what we've got now is a nice, you see how I can stretch this dough out and it's not tearing, so it's nice and stretchy. So that's what we've got. 20 minutes of hard work. And then once we're done with that, I'm just going to roll it into a ball and I'm tucking it under itself. So the idea is that we create like a nice tight ball. It's nice and smooth. And we're going to pop it in a bowl. Cover it with cling film. Or if you've got a lid, that's perfect, just to keep the air out, so you don't want that little skin to develop. Or if you've been to a hotel recently, the Nick shower cap, they're perfect, they'll stretch over a bowl, and we'll just leave that now to prove. That's the first fermentation of proving is happening in a big batch, and then we'll just leave this. The yeast will get going, they'll start eating away at the flour, start creating carbon dioxide, and hopefully then this dough ball will have plenty of air in it, ready for the second fermentation.